I'm Mark Lau Branson. This is an orientation video to the three-zone model of missional leadership. Al Roxburgh and Fred Romanuk write about this in their book, The Missional Leader. It's a way to look at organizations, particularly church organizations, and the way that we're going at it, and to offer an alternative to some other common understandings of organizational life. The three zones that we'll be talking about go from green to blue to red. We'll discuss not only how those work inside an organization, what an organization is featuring when it's in that zone, but also what kind of leadership is needed during these diverse times of organizational life. This is an alternative to a common understanding of organizational life that is often taught for clergy leadership also in organizations and churches. The mode behind that has to do with leaders having the work of creating a vision themselves or with a small team, that vision then leads to growth of the number of people, budget, programs, staffing, participation, all of that. But eventually that growth plateaus, and when it plateaus, there seems to start being a diminishment of energy, of resources, of creativity that leads toward decline. And so what an organization then often works at is, how do we create a new vision? How do we work harder at recruiting? How do we push people to become more committed? But the decline then eventually leads to nostalgia, where all of the conversation is about how we used to do things. It's trying to get people to be more committed, more conforming to the work of the organization. Often leadership theory then offers an alternative of saying, right at the plateau, or as soon as you detect the decline, you ought to have a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. This understanding is one in which if we just have a new strategic plan, a new goal, something that is not just small but huge, it will create new energy, new resources, new volunteerism. It will draw in new people that we haven't had there before. The problem with the BHAG is they generally don't work. There may be an initial new commitment, but it very quickly wears everybody out. They tend to not have the roots of a sustainable kind of organizational shift. So you've probably heard about this bell curve of organizational life. It's taught commonly in various books and courses and seminars. But instead, we're going to be looking at these three zones, the green, the blue, the red zone. They all have some aspects of organizational life as well as leadership. In the green zone, it's a time of generativity, of new emergent life. In the blue zone, it's more about systems and how do you organize the systems and the job descriptions and the kind of teams you need for an organization during that time. The red zone has to do with times of crisis, when there's confusion. And each of those takes a different kind of leadership. As you move through these different phases of organizational life, leaders need to be doing something different. The idea isn't just a curve in which all is predictable, but all of these phases happen in church life. Also, each phase has leadership of a particular type, of emergent leadership, building leadership in the blue zone, in the green zone. In the blue zone, more performative at the top, which then moves often toward reactive leadership, when leaders need to be more aware of what's going on inside the organization and outside the organization that's creating a crisis. That drops to the bottom red zone of bridging leadership and transitional leadership that makes it possible then to move back into an emergent leadership. Each of these then, as we'll look at the phases, moves through a choice at a particular time in each zone, and often a crisis, especially in the red zone, that pushes the organization in new directions. And so you see the flow will start with the bottom green of new activities and emergent life, through a performative organization, top blue, top red, a regulative agency that's reactive, that needs to go through confusion. And in fact, the confusion stage is actually very helpful and in fact needed for an organization to move back toward help. The transitions, you have to create completely new systems in an organization to go through the transitions that move you back into an emergent zone. And in the next video, we'll look more specifically then at the green zone and how you move from green into blue. So look for video number 2 on the three zones.